Hello there, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of Cookiecast. Today on Cookiecast, it's the NFL podcast Laces Out. Just me and Paul Williams here today, but we've got guest predictions, the stats, and the week's games to review, and the week coming up to preview. So here we go, this is Cookiecast Laces Out. One, two. Whoa. Tree. Oh! That'll be my clip show at the end of the year. Just a collection of me sitting down or standing up noises.
I honestly thought you were going to say a close-up of every crotch shot.
Every crotch shot. And there'll be points where I'll be like, I think my catchphrase will be, that's the end of the show. I mean, it would be if I could get out of this chair.
That's also quite a good point. Just before we start today's show, slash this week's show. Oh, no, because it is actually NFL related.
Breaking news?
Not quite breaking news.
I've seen some breaking news today, which you will love.
It is. It's a clipping of the last... Well, basically, it's the sort of the last half of the first round of the NFL draft in 2018.
Mm-hmm.
So it shows all the players that were taken before Lamar Jackson.
Oh no!
So basically,
oh no!
I know what you're saying.
No,
I know what you're saying there, Andy. You're saying that
Mitchell Trubisky.
Listen, Detroit are absolutely thrilled that they took centre Frank Ragnow instead of taking Lamar Jackson. You're absolutely right, Andrew, in that Cincinnati are so happy that they took centre Billy Price instead of Lamar Jackson. To be fair, I didn't realise this at the time, but Baltimore also had 2 picks in that first round. So Cleveland weren't the only team that had 2 picks in that first round. So
yes.
the Ravens took tight end Hayden Hurst in the first round. Haven't they got Mark Andrews? Who's pretty much the next stud tight end. So yeah, there's a lot of teams that have absolutely shit the bed there. Sadly.
It's another one where it's just me and you. So one of us has to do the intro. And I believe that job falls to you.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, welcome, one and all, to the show that just fails to quit.
We just won't quit.
We won't. We will stay until long after people want us to be. No doubt.
We are that guest that outstays their welcome.
Oh, very much so.
But it doesn't stop us being Yorkshire's #1 NFL podcast.
That is absolutely correct.
And the name of that podcast is
Laces Out, Bitches.
Laces Out, Bitches.
Do you reckon if we added that to the name of the podcast,
to the banner,
it would still be like acceptable? He's not liking it. He's not liking something, ladies and gentlemen. Now, from previous experience, that means one of 2 things. He's either not happy because it's a game that looks like it's terrible for next week, or it's a game that this guy picked correctly that someone else didn't pick correctly.
Or don't you worry, you picked a game correctly when everyone else didn't. And then you did the exact opposite. Yeah, we'll come to that one. That's a beauty. Oh! He's done it again. Oh no, he's done it again, ladies and gents. Falling behind, Mr.
For
Williams.
God's sake, is this the? There's absolutely no chance that so and so.
Bailey's definitely winning this one. Cowboys.
Up until a certain point, I believe that pick was fine. And then obviously, did you see the rain?
I mean, I always have this thing, like snow games. You know when you've got like snow games where like somebody goes down and they get up, and if they've got a white helmet for whatever reason, it's just white. Because the face, like the grill is just full of snow. And like every now and then somebody gets a bit of grass in the grill and stuff like that. But like a snow game where they get up and it's full of snow, and I'm always like, I mean, I know you're getting paid a lot of money to do this, but it must be a bitch.
Wasn't ideal. I think it was just. It's one of those games where obviously I know both teams have got to play in that situation, so it's not helping either of the two teams. But when the conditions are that bad, where on certain camera angles you can't even see the game developing, it's probably time to reconsider maybe having a little break. Although I suppose, was it a game earlier this season or was it last season where there was the game in Miami that started at like 1 o'clock in the afternoon local time and didn't finish till like 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock at night?
Yeah. Yeah, there was a game where it was the game that
but that
kept
was
on
because
going.
That was because of the way there was a hurricane one or
Well, they were going to move it, weren't they?
Possibly. I can't quite remember, but yeah, I remember it was like the longest recorded game, obviously just due to the fact that there wasn't any play for like 2 hours or something ridiculous like that. But that's what you get for living in America, I suppose.
Yeah. It swings and roundabouts in that country, innit? What was it Bill Hicks said? I love coming to England. I come here for the weather. Because you actually have it. Obviously at that time he was from California. We are number one in Yorkshire. We're branching out. We're moving out there. I mean, we're massive in America. Think about that statement. Have you got anything you want to go through from last week?
It sounds to be a bit of a recurring theme, but Lamar Jackson. I mean, at this point, it's seeming like there's no point in even having a competition for the MVP. He's just...
Well, this is what they were saying all the way through the season about Russell Wilson. You know, it's like Russell Wilson's got it completely locked down. It's got it locked down. And it's like, right, that's fair. But let's not forget Lamar Jackson sort of thing. And yeah.
Be interested if he does go on to win it. Just due to the fact that that'll be back-to-back quarterbacks in their first proper full season taking home the MVP trophy, which I'd like to see if that's ever happened before.
Oh, if you need to start the NFL, I'll have a stat for you. And at some point, they'll say it usually just before they fail to complete that.
Correct?
Stat. They did it again this week, didn't they?
More than likely.
What games have I unfortunately have not seen the Rams-Ravens game.
Yeah, I did not see it, but I've seen the score, and it sounds like it was an absolute massacre.
Some of the highlights. It is. I've said it before, and it's one of those where I am often a bit like, should there not be a point where a team can say, we're done here. You take the win and leave us to die. Leave us here to die.
Just cut off the limb, leave it behind, and we'll leave. We'll go our separate ways. Yeah, sad times.
And again, I've said it before, and I keep coming back to it, but very much like the Panthers had an issue at quarterback, which seemed to be affecting their entire team. I would definitely be saying that the Rams have a similar issue.
Absolutely do.
I can do some stats if you have nothing else to cover.
You go for it.
I'll just do a little bit of my homework that I didn't get a chance to do, and then I will do that. There is an absolute world game this week. I've just written it down. Also, Thanksgiving this week. So we get Thanksgiving football.
All you need to know is that tomorrow is Friday.
For those of us in England that celebrate Thanksgiving, some of us will be having a weekender tomorrow. You got big Thanksgiving plans? Have you made a pumpkin pie? Is the first
We don't do a pumpkin pie.
You're a disgrace.
However, we do. I do go to. This year, I'll be going to someone's house. We'll watch all 3 games. There'll be food of some kind. It just might not necessarily be American themed food. Last year it was pasta for some reason, but we did have mac and cheese on the side. So we had pasta with a side of pasta.
Okay.
Which is
everybody does it differently. Some people do.
Oh, I'll tell a lie. I did make a pumpkin pie. I made a pumpkin pie for dessert last year. It was alright, but it was a bit lacking.
From what I know, there is a fine line between a good and a bad pumpkin pie. I, for years and years and years, fought the pumpkin pie because I couldn't get past the pumpkin is savoury, so how can you have a sweet pie? I couldn't get my head round it. And then in the last few years, I've been like, well, go on then, give it a try. I've been like, wow, that is not what I was expecting. All over the pumpkin pie.
I think.
Do love a good one.
I think it's because mainly like the majority of the time when it's made with like pureed pumpkin, rather than sort of like a pumpkin that's obviously hollowed out and then.
It's one of those, isn't it? That it's one of the few food things where they're like, absolutely buy the ingredients from a can. Buy the canned stuff and use that because that is the best way to make. Because the very few recipes would encourage can-bought stuff. But when we were looking at making one, it was get the stuff in the can and just do it that way. Especially because in this country, it's another thing that we can't get hold of readily.
No. Well, they say, don't they, that like when it comes to sort of Halloween, obviously everyone likes to carve a pumpkin and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Carving pumpkins, it's not really to be eaten.
No.
They're grown to be that size, so you can slice them up and do whatever you want to them.
Yeah.
I mean, you can eat the inside of that, but it's very sort of bitter and like a bit. Well, it's not even that it's bitter. I think it's just that it has no real flavour to the flesh whatsoever. But apparently there was a big thing this year about not binning your pumpkins after Halloween, wasn't there? Because apparently like so many tons of pumpkin waste goes into landfill when it could be eaten by
what they say is you're supposed to leave them out, aren't you?
Yeah, the birds are leaving.
Yeah, and hedgehogs. Is that the other one that?
I think it's just any sort of wildlife that's out there. Probably foxes, if they're just cutting about. They'll probably have a little chew. But yeah. So I'll need to text my my brethren. That's the
American brethren.
Yes, and we'll have to put a plan together because I think he's off work on Thursday as well. So probably hit the shops, get the food sitch sorted out.
Got to sort the food out.
But yeah, it's bigger than Christmas over there, isn't it? Thanksgiving. So they say.
I saw a post this morning which was, don't forget Wednesday night to set your scales £15 back. I was like, well done. Right, let's talk week 12 stats. Again, meaty.
Weighty stats.
Just the 14. However,
Pathetic.
I can see one of them, in fact, the first one, has A, B, C and D. So technically pumps us up into the 15 range and 0.4. It's big. Let's kick off. So, as always, Stats Mistress came through early today. Must not have much work to do.
Wow.
That's very true. As credit goes to Nate Davis of USA Today. Number 1. Bravo to the Patriots, who added another feather to their headdress. With its win over Dallas, New England became the first team in NFL history to win at least 10 games in 17 consecutive seasons.
Boring.
Very much so. The victorious Patriots held the Cowboys to a season-low 9 points. However, that might not have been the case had conservative Dallas coach Jason Garrett, his team trailing 13-6, gone for it on 4th and 7 from the Patriots' 11-yard line with 6 minutes and 4 seconds to go. Instead, he settled for a field goal, and Dallas eventually lost 13-9. I was just about to say something about Jason Garrett, but I don't need to because it's point A. A petition to fire Garrett was started on change.org Sunday evening, despite the coach's first ever 3-0 start. The Cowboys are 6-5 and remain just a game ahead of the Eagles in the NFC East. I saw various bits. I mean, when you're watching Red Zone, you get snippets and stuff. As the games get later, you get more, so you're able to see more. Mm-hmm. We're like, the Cowboys lost. They only lost by a little bit. And, I mean, obviously that stat doesn't help they could have won it sort of thing. But the Patriots, it wasn't like they destroyed them.
It wasn't a blowout. It was just, it's like I said before, like, the weather conditions didn't help anybody. Obviously the Patriots are obviously more used to playing in that sort of like those conditions because it was at their stadium. So
yeah, B from number 1. Wide receiver Amari Cooper was held without a catch for the first time since he joined the Cowboys midway through the 2018 season. C. Tom Brady misfired on 20 of 37 passes amid the poor weather conditions in Foxborough. However, his pass rating over the past 3 weeks is just 73.9, which will continue to fuel concerns about the viability of the Patriots' offense. It's one of those things, the last 2 weeks now we've been talking about, this is a team who's relying on their defence to win games, which is a tried and tested method, we all know this. Mm-hmm. But it can't last for long because defence, in general, they get quite tired because of how much time they spend on the field. If you're relying on them to win games, there's going to come a point where they're going to be struggling. Mm. Brady has rushed 17 times for -1 yard this season.
That's on a par with Peyton Manning's college rushing stats.
If there was, I always go on about how I don't think Brady's legs work, and I think they're made of wood. But no matter how much of a fan I was of Peyton Manning, he was bolted to the ground. They had to pick him up and physically move.
One of the best things I saw was when I think it was DeMarcus Ware, because he went to the Broncos and he was there when they won Super Bowl 50. And it was when they were doing the America's game to sort of talk through the season and stuff like that. He constantly was reminded by Peyton that when they played, because he used to play for the Cowboys, and there was a game where it was the Cowboys versus Denver, and Peyton took the snap, faked the handoff, turned around and then just ran it into the end zone completely untouched because everyone had fallen for the fake handoff and stuff like that. And obviously, D. Ware was one of the people that fell for it, and he reminded him of it constantly. Because, there's no way that Peyton Manning should be scoring rushing touchdowns.
No. Quite you. Number 2. Who wants the AFC's final playoff berth? The Colts surrendered it to the Raiders on Thursday. Then Oakland turned it over to the Steelers on Sunday. All 3 teams are 6-5, but none are playing as well as Cleveland or Tennessee right now.
Tennessee could be a sneaky outside bet, really. But
think about where they're
absolutely one of those teams that if they do get in as the wild card, they will absolutely lose the first game.
So. Yeah, think where they were earlier in the season. You wouldn't have put them in this position now. But yeah, absolutely. If they get in, they will go out immediately.
Interesting last 5 games for them. So that at the Colts next week, at the Raiders the week after, At home to the Texans, at home to the Saints, and they finish the season at the Texans. So, tough schedule.
Very much so. Number 3. Seattle keeps winning. That's it. I'm joking. Which is all the Seahawks care about. But quarterback Russell Wilson, 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions over the last 2 games, is losing serious momentum to Baltimore's Lamar Jackson in the MVP debate. I don't know if we were saying this on camera or whether we were just talking about it before, but I don't see that as a thing. Like, to me, at this point in time, Lamar Jackson is here and Russell Wilson's here. The Seahawks are struggling to get through games.
I think the thing with the Seahawks is that at the start of the season, obviously, like, the defense wasn't playing well, and Wilson was playing like, out of his skin to get them through games. It's now almost sort of gone the opposite of that. The offense is started like I'm trying to think of the word. I can't think of it. They're like stuttering.
Yeah.
But the defense has now picked up the slack.
Rashad Penny 53-yard return for a touchdown.
So,
to finish this start, I think Wilson is bothered? ? With his 9th victory of 2019, he becomes the first quarterback with a winning record in each of his first 8 seasons. Russell Wilson is legit and has been. He's a Super Bowl winner and against a tough team.
Yeah.
Like it says there. I mean, I can't imagine he's bothered because he's got consistency. The Seahawks look like they're struggling. It'll be. I mean, there is a game. Where have I seen that?
As if Seattle's running.
We've got a game this week which could go, a different Seahawks. They're playing the Vikings.
Tough game.
Different Seahawks and a different Vikings would be an absolute monster of a game. The Vikings are all over the shop. So it depends which Vikings team turns up. But I think that's a good game there.
Mm.
Number 4. Suspended Browns DE Myles Garrett has played his final game of the 2019 season. Oh. It's now fair to wonder if Garrett's arch enemy, Steelers quarterback Mason Rudolph, has also played his last game for the year after a dreadful showing in Cincinnati that led to Rudolph being benched in favour of Delvin Duck Hodges. But maybe better for everyone if Rudolph isn't in the Browns. In the Browns' crosshairs in the next week's rematch at Pittsburgh. Well, despite Garrett's absence, the Browns have returned to relevance, winning their 3rd game in a row and returning to the AFC wildcard chase.
Strange you should say that because 1 hour ago, after taking over for Mason Rudolph on Sunday versus Cincinnati, Devlin Duck Hodges has been announced as the starter for Week 13 against the Browns.
His first throw. An absolute monster throw. It was like, where have they were saying this isn't the first time that he's come in as a backup for the Steelers. I'd seen one today. It was like things that have happened to Mason Rudolph, that teams have done to him. One was like he got knocked out by one team, he got his helmet knocked out by another team, and then this team knocked him out of a job. Number 5. Backup Cleveland running back Kareem Hunt scored his first touchdown since being released by the Chiefs last year and serving an 8-game suspension to start this season. There we go. Browns wide receiver Odell Beckham Jr. and Jarvis Landry.
Is this going to be a stat about them playing together at LSU?
Well, they scored touchdowns in the games for the first time since 2013, when they were LSU teammates.
Knew it.
I just want to take this opportunity right now to say thank you, Jarvis Landry, for being the sole point scorer on my team this week. We'll come to that in a bit. My co-host is going to love absolutely everything I have to say about it. But Jarvis Landry, you absolute legend. There was a point where he was responsible. In fact, I think that's still the case. I think he is still responsible for over half of the points that my team got.
I don't think it's over, but it's right on the verge of being half. Yeah. We'll come to that.
Listen, congratulations to Bills running back Frank Gore. I mean, this was an absolute beauty of one because they didn't stop the game, but they took a moment in the game to actually celebrate this. 15,289 yards, who overtook Barry Sanders to become the all-time number 3 rusher in the league history behind Emmitt Smith and Walter Payton. Gore, now in his 15th season, has a lot of work to do to catch Payton, needing 1,438 more yards. One of those, he's not a spring chicken. He's been playing a long time. It's a surprise to see that he is still playing, but he's getting the reps.
If he's got the hunger, to carry on playing, then.
But it's one of those. I mean, that could just be another season, depending. Number 8, the Jets have suddenly caught fire. Winning 3 straight while scoring 34 points in every one of those victories. The last time the Jets scored 34 plus points in 3 consecutive weeks was 2008, when Brett Favre was their quarterback. Number 9, Saints wide receiver Michael Thomas became the second player with 3 consecutive seasons of at least 100 catches, joining Antonio Brown, who did it 6 years in a row. Number 10. Is there a more quietly consistent, perhaps underrated, bunch than the Texans? It's worth noting Houston is now in position to win the AFC South for the 4th time in the past 5 seasons.
Tough game this week.
Yeah. Number 11. The Bungles have fielded a number of horrendous teams, but this is the first Cincinnati squad to start the season 0-11. The worst season in Bengals history was 2002, when Cincinnati finished 2-14 and picked Carson Palmer atop the subsequent draft. The breaking news, I'm sure you've seen it.
Fiery Hair's back.
Old Redhead's coming back on Sunday.
The Red Rocket?
The Red Rocket is back. Andy Dalton will be starting at quarterback. Was it Andy Dalton that I saw suited up on Sunday?
He's been the backup ever since he was replaced.
They kept cutting to him, and I was like, oh, they're gonna. He's
been suited to play every single week because obviously, like if Finley goes down injured, then he's obviously there to take over.
12. The Buccaneers have a pair of 1,000-yard receivers for just the 2nd time in team history. Mike Evans, will come to him because, honestly, and Chris Goodwin both eclipsed the mark Sunday. Not to mention defensive linemen Shu and Vita V both scored touchdowns in the team's 35-22 win at Atlanta. V caught a 1-yard touchdown pass, making the 347-pounder the heaviest player in the NFL's 100 seasons to score a touchdown on offense. Wow. Number 13, lucky for some, Titans running back Derrick Henry scored 2 touchdowns in a 16-second span Sunday. 10 of Henry's 35 career touchdowns have come against Jacksonville. Ryan Tannehill ran for 2 touchdowns and passed for 2 more in Tennessee's win, making him the first Titans quarterback to do that in a game since Steve McNair in 2001. Finishing on a downer, I'm afraid. 14. Panthers rookie kicker Joey Sly missed 2 extra point tries and a 28-yard field goal attempt in Carolina's 34-31 loss in New Orleans. Sly might be opening the door for injured veteran Graham Garneau to get his job back in 2020.
Yeah, part of me was looking to see if he'd already been cut, but it doesn't look like he has. So...
At this point in time, what I would say is if you took Christian McCaffrey out of the Panthers, what would you have left?
Oh yeah, there's absolutely no question about it. He is that team.
They are a dumpster fire.
So he's currently leading the league in rushing yards, but only by 6 yards from Nick Chubb. So, but then again, they are both then about 100 or so yards ahead of Dalvin Cook. So you'd be looking at this point that it's probably between those two for rushing leader this year.
And I think CMC is going to walk it.
But I mean, I don't know what he's got on top of that, but he must have at least 500 receiving yards on top of that.
Well, I mean, he's going to end up with a really bad back carrying that entire team.
You say that, but DJ Moore has got
to be
900
fair,
receiving yards.
DJ Moore's name did come up as having stats over the weekend. I mean, if you look at what that game went to and how it went, we haven't seen a Panthers team like that in a while.
No.
But they still chalked up a loss. And I'm not saying it's solely down to the kicker, but it's absolutely solely down to their kicker. Wow,
shots fired.
That's stats for week 12, people. Ooh, I haven't written the week down. We're going to talk a little bit of fantasy. So, this week in fantasy football, ladies and gentlemen, your gracious host went up against your even more gracious co-host. And it's one of those, for one of us, maybe both, definitely for one of us, this might well have been the playoffs. The amount I was invested in this week, this might well have been the playoffs for me. So, I think it was half an hour before the games kicked off. So I'll just have a final little check of my team. What is this? Why are my points down? My projected points had dropped out of its arse. Like, what's going on here? Ooh, I've got a player who was previously projected points, who's now projected 0 points, or because they've been downgraded to doubtful. So Breeder went from playing to doubtful. Okay, so now I need a running back. Okay. It's fine. I'm sure I'll have one on my bench. No, that's right, because everybody on my bench either has O or D or IR or...
I did wonder why you were starting JJ at running back, considering that I had him the week previous and had dropped him.
So, there was a conversation in the Cook household. There were many conversations in the Cook household. So one of them being that for somebody who has such a monumental winning record this season, there are only 2 games that you've lost this season. And those 2 games were both lost in this house, I believe. And that's what I was informed.
I believe one of my losses this season was to Cole.
The stats mistress would disagree. I don't know who to believe. However,
so I did lose them. I lost week 3 to Liam.
So she was right in that respect.
And week 6 to Cole.
Ah, so there we go. She's full of shit. No surprises. No surprises there. So I went up against Mr. Williams, and well, this had to be the week where Russell Wilson was like, I don't think I want to play this week, so I'll give you 9 points. As we've correctly pointed out, I did pick up Jaya Jaya. Obviously, his monster week of 1 point. The Raiders, who have been playing really well, I was like, the Raiders' defence will probably do well this week, so I popped them in. Oh, that's right, -1. I've got a whole host of random players on my team. Mike Evans, who he's the kind of player that when you need him to get those real points, those real good points, he's nowhere to be seen. So we've got all these guys going on. Saquon Barkley decided that this week he would actually try and play. Got a whopping 5 points. It was an absolute shit show. Thank the maker that I had Jarvis Landry, because they couldn't have said his name more in that game this weekend, and he rocked up 10 receptions, 148 yards, and 2 touchdowns to get 26 points. Jarvis Landry, I love you. At the end of the weekend's games, myself and my glamorous co-host were tied. 53 apiece. I mean, they've got to be are they the lowest?
No, I had a quick look. Phil did not have a good week.
And unfortunately, he didn't have a good week against the person who... They're the joint second lowest scores.
The problem is that Phil's bad week came at a time when he couldn't afford to have a bad week, because it's put him out of playoff contention.
It has.
It's weird now because technically, because you've got two ties, that almost counts as an extra win.
Spoilers.
So you're currently on 7-3-2 in second place. There's 3 people on 7-5. Stu on 6-5-1. So I can't be overtaken in
No,
first place.
there's nothing that can be done now.
So I'm locked into the number 1 seed for the playoffs. In theory, you should be number 2.
In theory, I've got a team that is completely decimated by injury.
The problem we've got is that, Matt, I love you. You're a lovely bloke. I don't want your team anywhere near the playoffs because you've got Lamar Jackson. So if you would kindly bugger off.
We'll come to the playoffs.
That would be nice for the playoffs.
We'll come to the playoffs shortly because massive changes at the tops this week, ladies and gents. Me and Mr. Williams were drawing going into the final game of the week. Mr. Williams had all of his players play. He had 53 points. I had 1 player left to play, and I had 53 points. That player was Mason Crosby, kicker for the Green Bay Packers. He was projected 6 points. I'm looking at it. I was like, oh, yeah.
All he needs to do is kick a point after.
He needs to walk on, kick the ball, he needs to go through the big sticks at the end of the field, and then this guy wins. I went to bed safe in the knowledge that I was going to wake up to a win. Anybody that knows what happened in the 49ers-Packers game will know that Mason Crosby didn't step foot on the field, and his points were 0. So me and this guy ended in a tie. 53-53. What's probably more unfortunate than that is... for me, 2 games down the road, the stats mistress, who had shithoused her way into a playoff position, went up against the lowest person in our league and lost by 1 point. Now then, I believe, having looked at this earlier today, James and Matt Moore had monster wins this week.
Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately for the stats mistress and our good friend Stuart Woodmansey, who had a loss, there has been a change. So the playoffs at this point in time would be that man there going up against James Forrester Gray, and at this point in time this man here going against podcast alum Matthew Moore. Very different. A week has changed that entire... Because, obviously, the Stats Mistress was in the playoffs and Stu was in the playoffs and it was us four going up against each other. And 1 week has changed that. Who are you playing this week?
I have Cole.
Oh! Oh, no.
Now, Cole can technically still get in the playoffs.
Yeah, he can.
It takes a little bit of... There's almost like a win and in situation in one of the games. And it's you versus Leanne.
Yeah.
However, it's only winning in for one of you. Because I think... Although saying that is there a way... See, I don't know what's going to win. Because, technically, if Matt, James and Leanne all win, they'll have 8 wins and 5 losses. You will have 7 wins, 4 losses and 2 draws.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if that means that you drop below them because of the wins.
So the draws in those scenarios seem to count as wins.
I don't know if they do.
It's been a thing where I've been in, like, when I've looked at the thing, that draw puts me above other people.
But that's only because you've got the same number of wins.
Yeah.
So if you lose against Leanne, I think you drop out of the playoffs. The fact that you've got 7 wins compared to their 8 wins.
Oh, absolutely. I am definitely going out of the playoffs this week. Hands down, I will go out of the playoffs this week.
Well, that is the problem. It's basically,
cannot.
in that case, that's a lie. It's winning in for you two. It's a case of only one of you's probably getting in.
So I'll give you a clue. On my bench, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 positions in the bench. 1, 2, 3, 4 of those positions have either O or Q next to them. So basically, as far as running backs are concerned, I don't have a backup running back. As far as wide receivers are concerned, I have backups, but they're terrible. And as far as quarterbacks, I have who I personally believe is one of the worst quarterbacks at this moment in time as a backup, which is Jared Goff.
Look at the team they're playing against, though. They're playing against Arizona. Their defence is not very good.
My other quarterback is Russell Wilson, so I'll stick with that.
Yeah.
I truly believe that I will go out of the playoffs this week.
Stranger things have happened, let's put it that way.
So yeah, it's gonna be all change at the top, potentially again this week, and that's what it looks like for the fantasy.
Oh, I thought, no, I'm not playing against Cole at all. I thought I was playing against Cole. I'm playing against James.
Oh.
So I can potentially scupper his...
You can potentially knock him out of the playoffs.
Knock him out of the playoffs altogether. There's some tasty games. Tasty games.
Oh, that's...
Everyone should be pulling for Tim to hang a loss on in Graham we trust. It's gonna be interesting.
There are not many times that I would root for Tim, and this weekend is also not one of those times. Ah!
So rude.
So we have our little predictions. Each week we predict, and the way it works, as I'm sure everybody knows, me and Paul are going up against each other. But we like to spice things up by also taking on our guest each week. Sometimes the guest is here in person, as it is this week. Sometimes they're not. I have been given picks for the Stats Mistress, who will be fronting as the guest this week. To give you some idea, week 1, me and Paul tied. Ooh. Oh, that's interesting. I've come across who do we think is going to the Super Bowl and who do we think will get MVP. Looks like none of us are winning those.
Well, I said Mahomes and he was out injured for a little bit, so...
The guest won week 2. The guest won week 3. The guest had a joint win because there was 2 of them. Mr. Cook had a win. Mr. Cook had another win. The guest had a win. Mr. Williams had a win. Mr. Williams had a dominant win. Mr. Williams drew with the guest. Would you like to find out how we all did?
I would love to know how we all did.
So, and in a possible 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 games, only one person broke double figures. Mr. Williams, would you like to talk about your pick of, let's see, the Bengals, for example?
I have never once picked the Bengals.
You did last week.
No, I didn't.
You did.
Why would I pick the Bengals?
Because you thought that this was the week that they were going to get their 1 win of the season.
I want to go back and listen to that because I definitely did not say that.
As I say all the time, at least there's a recording of it. Would you also like to talk to us about how the Jaguars are definitely beating the Titans?
Yeah, I didn't realise that Derrick Henry was only saving himself to just pull his dick out all over their face.
We could talk about how, this Cowboys team.
Didn't realise it was gonna. I didn't realise the heavens were gonna open and that it was just gonna.
So, Mr. Williams, you ended up with 8 points. 8 out of 14 is not a bad way to go. Our guest had 9. Mr. Cook, on the other hand, correctly predicted 10 of 14 games to take the win. I think that means at this point in time that the guest and myself might be... I think the guest is winning. It's a little unfair where sometimes the guest gets 2 picks, but just saying. We like to keep it real. We have an unlucky for some situation because it's week 13. We've got, like previously mentioned, we've got Thanksgiving to deal with. So, as we all know, Cowboys will be playing.
As will the Lions.
As will the Lions. Kicking us off for the week. I've been given the picks. I need to write them down. I have been given the picks.
First game should be Lions Bears.
Bears versus the Lions is the number 1 game of the week. The guest, who is this week the Stats Mistress, has gone with the Bears.
Oh.
Not a game I want to pick this.
No, this is very much your stereotypical. Literally could go either way. Not a very nice game to be picking. Ugh.
Sod it. I'm going to put the Bears down.
Lions are at home. No, I'll go Bears as well.
Okay, Bears across the board. Bills versus the Cowboys. Mr. Williams, kick us off.
The Bills look good, but the Cowboys are at home. So I'll have the Cowboys.
The Stats Mistress has also gone with the Cowboys. I think I'm going to mix things up there. I'm saying Bills.
Interesting.
I think the Bills have got a bit of something this season. Saints versus the Falcons. I mean, it's going to be the Saints on that one. Stats Mistress would agree, and Mr. Williams is nodding profusely.
Yes, please.
Now then, every now and then we get a situation where I'll be like, game of the week. Game of the week. Game of the week. I would go as far as to say that this is not only game of the week, this is potentially game of the season. The 49ers versus the Ravens.
So, repeat of the Super Bowl from 2013. Unfortunately, I think this is the actual game. So obviously the Niners have already lost. However, I think this could be the game that starts their little fairy tale unravelling. I reckon that Lamar and the rest of the Ravens could put a bit of a beating on them.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Your Ravens. Stats Mistress agrees. There's a big part of me that wants to be like, no, the 49ers are going to win this. There's been a lot of talk today around like the NFL UK group and stuff about how people are saying like Lamar Jackson, great quarterback, doesn't protect himself the way that other quarterbacks do. And he's one wrong move away from an injury. And a lot of people are saying they think the 49ers are going to put something to him this week. Now, the way the Ravens are playing, I think it would be a bad pick to pick the 49ers for points purposes. But everything I was reading this morning, I'm writing the Ravens in that box, but I don't feel good about doing it. I want you all to know that.
They're at home though, and just consider that when the last time they were at home against a team that was decent, they absolutely obliterated the Pats. So
true. I've got Redskins Panthers.
If the Panthers can't win this game, they don't deserve to be in with a playoff shout. If they even are in with a playoff shout, if you want to look at that.
Stats Mistress has gone Panthers. I think we all have to go Panthers. The Redskins looked interesting at the weekend.
Yeah.
More than they have done for a while.
There was certainly something about them.
Jets, Bengals, snooze fest.
Jets have started playing really well, as was covered in the stats. Could potentially see a big Darnold week here for me personally.
You thinking Jets? I mean, at this point in time, it's a bad pick to pick the Bengals for anything. I'm going Jets. It's Jets across the board on that one. Titans, Colts.
Excuse me. Colts.
Stats Mistress doesn't agree. She's gone with the Titans. And I would tend to agree with her on that one.
Interesting.
The Bucks versus the Jaguars.
Oh, God.
Exactly.
Well.
Time to get the coin out.
It really is. I imagine on Pick'ems that's probably a 50-50 game.
Jags 59-41.
Jags started to put a little bit of something together in the second half against the Titans. And obviously you've got that. You don't know when Jameis Winston's going to throw 4 or 5 interceptions. So, oh God,
every other
bloody
week.
hell. Just based on the wide receiver play, I'll go with the Bucks.
Stats Mistress agrees. I'm putting the Jaguars down. I think they need to get a little bit of something going, just in general. So I wonder if this could be a game they could do that. Speaking of absolute dross, Eagles versus the Dolphins.
Ooh.
I mean, nobody wants to watch that game.
This is exactly the sort of game that Carson Wentz needs to sort of kick out of this funk that he's got himself in at the minute. Yeah, Eagles for me.
We've all gone Eagles there. I definitely agree with that. It's... Yeah, I mean, people are starting to ask questions, and that's never good, especially, for season ends and stuff.
No.
Packers, Giants, I mean, that's a no-brainer. It's Packers all the way.
Yes, please.
And the Stats Mistress agrees. Browns Steelers, again, I don't feel that there's much to discuss on this one. I feel it's just going to be Browns. Weirdly, this might sound strange to say, but I never realised how much the Steelers relied on Roethlisberger until he wasn't there. I mean, it's not just him. I mean, Juju's nowhere to be seen. You know, they've been decimated by injury. So there is that. But yeah, since Roethlisberger went out, that team has just gone. I presume you're.
I'll be sticking with the Bruins.
The Bruins. The Rams versus the Cardinals.
Ooh. I said earlier that. So the Rams should have enough to take care of business there, but the Cardinals have had the bye. The Rams, by the sounds of it, they got the doors blown off last night.
I mean, that score.
I'll still go with the Rams.
The stats mistress has gone Cardinals.
Interesting.
I imagine that is purely because the Rams can't do fuck all at the moment. I'm with you. I'm putting the Rams down, but I don't feel good about it. Raiders Chiefs. Stats mistress gone Chiefs. Mr. Cook's going Chiefs. Just yourself.
Yeah, the Raiders were like they're on a good. I am picking the Chiefs. The Raiders were on a good run, and then they just got smoked by the Jets.
Until I needed them to do something. I needed their defense to not get -1.
Yeah.
Because that would have been the difference, you know. Until then, they were doing real well. Your favourite coming up, the Chargers versus the Broncos. Another team that, to me, the Chargers are just the perpetual can't get it going team.
That's a tough game to pick. I mean, it should be. The Chargers should have enough, but. Oof.
Lions gone Chargers.
Yeah.
I'm going Broncos.
Oh, you crazy bastard.
Chargers for you?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Me and the Chargers we don't get on. Patriots versus the Texans. I mean, if you're not writing the word Patriots down, who are you?
So,
here we go.
Every week.
Here it comes.
Every week I go with this narrative of the Patriots have not really played anyone yet. Is it in Texas? Is it in Houston?
I always say the way it's written, Patriots versus Texans.
It's usually the second team that's written down is usually the home team.
Yeah.
It's usually somebody at somebody. I think it is in Houston. So, yeah, set me down for the Patriots, but I reckon it could be a close one.
NRG Stadium.
Yeah, it's in Houston.
And finally, the Vikings-Seahawks game.
Good game.
Yeah.
Vikings have had the bye, so they'll be rested up. Seahawks had a bit of a wobble, but still managed to come through. I'm going to go for the Seahawks to just shade it.
Seahawks across the board there. I think it's one of those that, like I said earlier, to me, it's going to be which version of the Vikings turn up to that. And I'm hoping that the Seahawks take something away from this week where, honestly, they struggled. They really struggled. You know, there was points where I was like, I don't think they deserve to win this game. And then there was points where it's like, you know, you've got defence players running for touchdowns and stuff. So it's very much an interesting game, that one. That's like second game of the week for me. But that 49ers-Ravens game. Looking forward to that. That is
all she wrote.
Everything from me, unless you've got anything.
I've got nothing other than just to say, obviously, Happy Thanksgiving for
Happy Thanksgiving. That's our Thanksgiving
North American
episode.
brethren.
So a Thanksgiving episode right there. And, you know, in various situations, we might not have been talking to the American people, but
normally, obviously, we'd say ask for your predictions, comments, whatever.
Tell us how you have your pumpkin pie.
Or just general suggestions on what we should be eating. Tried to do yams one year. Went all right.
I think at this point in time, I think we've had this conversation before. That I still don't know what a yam is.
It's just sweet potato.
Yeah.
But it's sweet potato produced and prepared in a certain way.
Like little?
Sometimes people put like marshmallows and stuff like that on it to make it really sweet. And I was like, oh no. I made one with like a Jack Daniel's glaze, which was pretty sweet. That was pretty good.
That was the glaze.
But yeah, any suggestions?
I mean, obviously, I've already said my Super Bowl food for this year is going to be the jalapeno hot dogs. Cannot wait for vegetarian hot dogs. Cannot wait for that. So good. I presume. They looked amazing. So yeah, send us your recipes. Let us know what you're eating for Thanksgiving. And until next week, turkey's out.
Happy Turkey Day.
Happy Turkey Day.
Turkey Day. Gobble gobble, bitches.
So there you go. What do you think to that? Another week done. Another week closer to the end of the season. How are you doing in your fantasy? Are you winning? YouTube watchers, make sure you're YouTube subscribers. Check us out over there with the old likes and subscribes and all of that good stuff. Check us out at cookiecast.com. Send us some social media love. Let us know how you're getting on. So that's it. And until next week, I'm going to say bye, and I'll see you then. Bye-bye.